Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, good morning. I stole your line.
That's okay. It's all good. It happens. You work with someone for a while and then they become one.
Something like that. Or they just steal your material and move on. That's all. One or the other. Well, anyways, good morning.
You've heard about my negotiations.
Well, we'll have to talk about that. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tom Brush, and this is Bob Graham, and we're here for our edition of today's Antidote, where we try to provide that one thing that might help you today, might help you tomorrow, and it might not help you until next week or next year. But we wanted to try to provide some of those opportunities for you to figure out how to get unstuck, move forward, and take your next step. And what we realized along the way is that while we may offer one thing based on our topic, you may have other thoughts, and you might have another thing that you'd like to share. So please feel free to put it in the comments. If you're watching this on record, just post it in the comments below, because we think that not only adds to the show, but it also helps people. It provides really what's real for you, which is what we're trying to allow you to do so that you're able to move forward. Woo, that was a little long. Sorry about that, Bob. Bob? Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. It's bad weather. You know, we have a little snow on the ground, and it seems like whenever it rains or snows, things get a little wonky. Yeah, that was a lot to say, but I think the one thing I would add to that is you and I benefit from what people share in the comments. We've learned a great deal about ourselves and about other people from what they share in the comments. So it really serves us all.
Correct. Absolutely. And today, this week, we're talking about self-sabotage. Yesterday, we tried to, talk a little bit, define it, say what it was. And something that came up in that conversation, I wanted to go back to. You gave the example of the book. And over the weekend, you're working on a book and trying to get done the cover and the back cover and all of those things. And, it got almost to the point of, why am I doing this? And I thought that because our topic today is what causes self-sabotage, that it might be good, if you're okay with this, to explore that a little bit.
Sure, Tom, go ahead.
So walk us back through that a little bit. Just give a brief overview of how you were feeling.
I've been working on this book on and off for about 6 months, so this is not anything new, but we are getting down to crunch time. I have a client who wants copies of it that I promised copies of it by roughly February 18th, which means it needs to be printed really soon. And so we are at what I would call go time. It's time to put it out into the world. And once you let go of it, you lose control. I can't control how people react to it. I can't control if there's a typo in it. And so I'm scared at this point. I'm scared that there'll be some silly mistake. I'm scared that a lot of the ideas that you and I have worked on that I've put into a book, that I won't represent them well to you. I'm worried that I will get all the attention and you won't. And that's not fair in some ways. I'm worried that people will laugh at what I've put out there. How am I doing?
Yeah, well, brief, you're doing well. You have more than a few things. So what's the worry? What's the real worry?
I think the real worry is this puts a flag in the ground that says this is what I'm willing to stand up next to, and that people can take their shots at that. That makes no sense. That's silly. That's stupid. You have no idea what you're talking about. You've never done this or you've never done that. And we run the same problem with the program this morning. Anyone, someone could easily get in their comment and go, this is the stupidest waste of time I've ever done at 8 o'clock in the morning. I would be unsettled by that for at least a minute.
Okay. And when you were dealing with the cover, what was the biggest challenge there?
I had a vision for it that I couldn't put into words, but I knew when it was, I'm going to fall into the trap. I can see it. I knew when it would be right.
Really?
I knew I had the vision and it had to match my vision. And what's interesting is usually you and I are very iterative. You suggest something, I suggest something, we kick it back and forth. This was one of those times where I don't think I gave you the space to even comment. You were basically serving me. And I went back this morning and looked at those texts or those messages and was like, yeah, I wasn't my usual chatty self. I wasn't joking. You know, thinking back, there was a point where, if you remember, my name was in lowercase letters on the cover.
Oh, yes, I remember.
I could have easily written a comment. The comment I would write this morning would be, hey, Tom, I think I've earned the right to have capital letters with my name. Could you make that change? And you'd laugh and you'd do it. It'd be fine. I think what I said to the other day was, my name needs to be capital letters.
Sure.
There's a difference there. And
there is.
And
there's a stylistic.
No, I mean a difference in my tone
right.
and how I approached it. And I think that's, as I look back on it, I feel bad that my fears, my worries, my need to be perfect got in the way of something where it was the weekend and you were helping me with something. And I wasn't, while I was incredibly appreciative and respect and appreciate your opinions, I don't think that day you could have gotten through to me if you had been foolish enough to go, hey, Bob, I think lowercase letters on your name would actually be a nice touch. It's kind of renegade. It would set the tone right on the front of the book. Here I am making the argument. It would not have landed with me on Sunday because I was in a place of absolute panic that something that was going to have my name on it, that was going to go out into the world, that I care deeply about, was potentially not going to land the way I wanted it to.
And would you say that's because you wanted it to be right?
No, I think I wanted it to be approved and endorsed by people. And I wanted people to go, oh my God, Bob, this is the most amazing book in the world. Oh, you changed my life. This is awesome. Not, yeah, I didn't get to it, or I don't really care about that.
Yeah, it's
Which
interesting.
Probably is the same thing.
Yeah, I think they're close. I think the other thing you said yesterday, which I think this is what brought it on to me, was something about the number of people is going to help. I can't remember the exact words. I should have went back and listened to it. But it was something like, the number was 1,000. That's really what I remember. That this, whether this helps no one or it could help 1,000 people. And the first thought in my head was, what if it helps one?
Well, it's already helped one. It's helped me.
Okay. And what are the chances that your one is going to help someone else? You're going to use some of that to help somebody else.
I think I already do.
And that is then going to help other people.
Yes.
So in some regards, if you help one person, might not the ripple effect end up helping 1,000, 10,000, 100,000?
Could very well happen.
So, I bring this up because I think this is one of the things that causes self-sabotage, is I think we want things to be right, or maybe sort of phrased a little differently, we don't want them to be wrong.
Yes.
And I think that though there's almost like there's no gray area. It doesn't allow for gray area, right? It's either right or it's not wrong, or it's wrong, one of the two. And it just made me go back and think about is, you know what? It's what's real. It's what's real for you. And does it really matter if it's right for somebody else?
Yes. In my mind, it does. I mean, at its core, I agree with you. This is one of those, my rational brain says, no, it doesn't matter. but my brain that's out in the world that exists in this society is that it has to matter to more people. If it doesn't get a good reception for whatever reason, it will upset me for a couple of reasons. And this, I think, is what gets to self-sabotage. I put a lot of my heart and soul into this. There are a lot of examples in this book that are really close to the, close.
Yep.
It's hard to do that. It's hard to do this right now. And when you do these things, you want them to be useful to people. And it's sometimes difficult to separate. But, what I've always been able to do pretty well is there's Bob the writer, and that's the guy who wrote the book. If you want to criticize Bob the writer, have at it. Take all day. I don't care. Then there's Bob me inside. Those two are in separate worlds most of the time. Sunday, they merged into one. And that's rare for me to have happen. And this is not the first book I've done. I've done several books. So I've been on this hot seat before. And it's just funny that it came back to me on Sunday.
What would happen if you changed that perception, that you're all the same? And that all you're doing is sharing what is real for you? Some ways, it doesn't matter what anybody else takes away from it. You are putting your thoughts out there. You're sharing what's real out in the world. And there's a good chance that someone may read it, never say a word to you about anything, and it dramatically changes their life.
Right.
Or it just has a small influence on what's real for them. What if you looked at it in that way?
Well, I could look at it that way, which is better. The other way I look at it yesterday was that you read it. You read it, someone else read it. The two people that I respect a lot read it. And both of you told me that it was good. There were things to change, but you would have said to me, Bob, this is completely not what I expected at all. Hey, it's your book, you do what you want, but I thought you were going to go in this direction. You didn't say that to me. You could have. You still could. And I know you would if there was a need to.
Actually, it's interesting. I'm not sure I would.
Wow. Now I got nothing.
Well, because here's the thing. And somebody once said to me, we all look at things through different lenses, right? We all have different knowledge, experience, and perspective when we look at it. And should I say to somebody else, what you've poured your heart and soul into and written is not right? It should be different. If you now there's different things between like, oh, you got a typo here. There's something grammar here. That's a little different. But the core context of it is what is real for you. And is it appropriate for me to change it? Again, I could offer ideas and thoughts, but in reality, it's got to be what's real for you, or else it's not your book anymore. How's that?
Now you make me think you don't like it. now you've got me spinning a whole new time. Right when I thought I was coming away from it.
Well, why?
Because you and I are aligned on what we're trying to accomplish. I trust your opinion. I trust your judgment. And I believe deep inside that if you thought I was doing something that would be damaging to me or us or what we're trying to do collectively, that you would intervene and go, whoa, dude, you can do what you want. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But if I were... let me just give you my perspective. And I think that's perfectly fine. I agree with that. I think that may be where a book is most difficult because it's where you put your own perspective on the line in 90 to 100 pages and tell the world, this is what I believe. This is how I'm describing the renegade way, which for so many people in this group, they're living their renegade way. They probably never put those words to it. So I'm trying to put words to it in a way that resonates with people and they go, yes, that's me. Oh my God, that's what it is. And that's a scary process. It's the same thing as if I were writing lyrics to a song. You know, like I can't imagine what Lin-Manuel Miranda did in Hamilton to be so out there with that. I can't imagine what it felt like for him the first time they were going to put that on stage. And he's like, oh my God, they're going to love it. They're going to hate it. I don't know what's going on here. This. I'm so far off the cliff.
Well, if we're so worried about that, doesn't that really change what's real for us?
It has many times, sure.
Should it?
No. Because the further you get off the cliff, I think the more an impact you have on the world. Look at Hamilton. People picked up a biography of Hamilton and read it. I read the first half of it, like about 80% of the people I know. I would have never known a thing about Hamilton beyond the basics if I hadn't been exposed to the musical, which led to the book. So there's a guy who takes a huge gamble and it pays off in huge dividends. Oh, it's a gamble. If you're going to do a rap musical, that's a gamble.
And if it didn't go well, what would have happened?
You wouldn't know his name and you wouldn't know the Hamilton story. And Disney Plus would have one less piece of programming. By the way, Disney Plus, feel free to send us the sponsorship money because we've just taken about 45 seconds.
Wouldn't he have learned something about what were people interested? And then he could decide, do I really care? Or do I want to share it the way I want to share it? That this is what's real for me. And it makes me go back to our businesses, right? Is like, sometimes I think we're so worried. Yes, we should understand what our audience, where they're at. And at the same time, we need to be who we are. If I go out and be like, I'm only concerned about what my audience thinks, it's the only thing that matters. Am I really going to be true to myself? And am I going to be happy with what I'm doing?
Right.
So I think that's the thing, is that we get so worried about right or wrong. And it just leads to this spiral of, where am I going to go? If one person, because we could never survey the entire world. So we're taking a sample size of a few people who may or may not agree with what we're saying. Does that mean that there aren't 10,000 other people who would read it and be like, oh my God, this is awesome? They just haven't had a chance to be exposed to it yet. Same with your book. You're putting out there what you believe. And at the same time, you've done a lot of research about and conversations about this. So there is some understanding of who your audience is. Now you understand that, great. And you have the opportunity to share what's real for you. Isn't that more important than whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent?
Yes. This would not be the best, like on NPR when they interview the authors. This probably wouldn't have been the best about the author.
Well, I wouldn't interview because I'm questioning the author.
No, I was just thinking the context or the contrast between this and that's how you got the idea for your book. It's quite different. It's okay. I'm also squirming a little, so hence the comedy, which is further self-sabotage, because the real opportunity is right now.
Correct. And I think that the opportunity is, you have something to say. You should say it. However you want to say it. And yes, might some not agree with it? Maybe. Might others really love it? Maybe. And might others be like, that's really nice. I hadn't thought about that a lot. Interesting perspective. I'll take a look at it. I think that we're so worried about the two extremes. Mm-hmm. Is it absolutely right? Or is it absolutely, oh my God, everybody's going to hate it? That we forget that there's a whole lot in the middle. And in reality, what really matters is that we're sharing what's real for us so that someone else might be able to be influenced by it.
I have nothing to say, Tom. It's taken 237 episodes, but I have nothing to say.
How come?
It's just awkward. And
doesn't make any sense.
I think the interesting thing is what you're saying makes perfect sense. Absolute sense, but it doesn't always reconcile with what's going on inside me.
Fair. Well,
I think that's the real lesson here in self-sabotage. You've got to fight those demons. I know that demon now, And if that comes up in a week and you're like, hey, Bob, so did the book go to the publisher? No, I'm doing some final edits. I have some questions about what the copyright should be. And hey, dude, is this you being afraid, or is this you legitimately slowing this down? It could be either of the two and a whole bunch in between. And
Correct.
I think we as business leaders do this all the time.
Sure.
You have to check the email one more time. I used to see it when I did websites where the person was like, yeah, we're still reviewing it before it went live. And they'd review it to death. And you'd be like, really? Have you looked at it? No, I really haven't. They were afraid to say it's good to go because then it's out in the world. And once it's out in the world, you have no control, presumably.
Well, or you have complete control.
Right.
It's out there. All right.
Right.
And then we'll see once it's out there how the people who might be reviewing it, well, they come to it with a very different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Then the people who, once it's out there, they might look at it and be like, sure, they all come to it looking at it with different knowledge, experience, perspective, right? So, of course, there's going to be, for as many people who look at it, there are going to be as many people who have differing opinions about, is this the right color? Is this the right tone? Is there enough language? Is there too much language? Where's the button going to be? And if we start worrying too much about that, we will drive ourselves insane. And we will self-sabotage us into inaction. And what if we just say, you know what, I'm going to put it out there because I believe that this is what's real for me. And people are going to react. And you know what? That's okay. And then when they react, that's going to influence what's real. And I might say, hey, you know what? I like that, actually. Your idea, I hadn't thought about that. Let me modify it this way. Or, sorry, you don't like it. I'm not going to pay whatever it costs to redo my website, to redo my marketing message because of 2 people or 10 people or even 100 people. What is 100 people in the scope of all the number of people who are going to look at your website, your marketing, whatever?
Right.
And I think it's that worry of being right, not wrong, or wrong that drives people into self-sabotage because they're now worried about, like, again, what are the immediate results as it happens right now by one person?
And we can't really know what is right. I mean, I can know what's right in the moment, but it's funny. I was reading a section of the book last week, and it evolved from where it had been 3 months ago when I wrote it. And it was like, oh, no, I can say this better. I have a better example. I can add this to it. And so it's an iterative process, even in the crafting of a book.
Well, and if you wait long enough, you could make another change.
Yeah, oh, yeah. You can rewrite the whole book.
Correct. Or you could put it out there and be like, you know what? What was real then? Yeah, it might be a little bit different now, but the basis of it is the same. So I'm just going to put it out there and see what happens. And I'll save that for the 3rd edition or the 4th edition or the 5th edition. I got you writing more books now.
I like writing books. Believe it or not, that's the funny thing, Tom. It's one of the things I really like doing, and I think it's one of the things I'm better at than most people. And I still have these struggles.
Sure. Well, we all do. I mean, because I think we want it to be right. Correct? Like there's that belief is that if I'm going to do this, I want it to be right. And I think that wanting to be right is like chasing perfection. There's no such thing as perfection because it can always change. It can always be different. It can always be better. There's no such thing as perfection in my mind.
Right.
And so the same thing with being right. Like right to whom?
Right.
To me, to Tim, to somebody else who reads it, to Joe from California or Jane from Florida, or
right.
And if it's right, if it's real for one of them, is that enough?
All right, it's my favorite time, Tom. Comment time. Here we go.
All right.
It's going to be a cavalcade. Tim says, your book is going to be awesome, Bob. You got this. Very nice. He also says, embrace my E.E. Cummins. That's the lowercase letters. He also said, move on. Tim, Bob guaranteed your knowledge, experience, and perspective is going to help me because it has many, many times throughout our friendship. That's very kind. And Tim also suggested that I read the Federalist Papers. You'll definitely learn more about Hamilton than you did from a play. He also posted the great quote that you might want to frame. I have nothing to say, Tom. That's a rare one. And then Kim says, it also only takes someone who has a lot of connections to respond favorably and promote it to their network. The response won't be instant either. So I think Kim's talking about getting the book out there. And
think about the book on Alexander Hamilton. How many people even knew it was out there 10 years ago? I forget when he wrote it. I mean, I remember it because I saw the guy speak once.
It's like 2010, I think.
Yeah, maybe. And I went to Hamilton, so that there's a connection there, Hamilton College, so there's a connection there. So at some point, that was
nice plug for Hamilton, by the way. Well done.
I'll let them know.
Please.
That book was sitting on the shelf, gathering dust in some regards. Yeah, there were some people who read it, but most people didn't even know who the person was. And one person picked it up and was impacted by it, who did one thing that led to millions, maybe hundreds of millions of people now being much more aware, not only of the person the book was written about, the person who wrote the book, and the book in and of itself. So we just never know, like, at what point is it going to, whatever we're putting out there is going to be unbelievably real, maybe to the point of being right for one person who makes that change, who is going to change significantly. Like, I would offer that a book that I read by Bob Berg had a dramatically, it was as close to being right as anything I've ever read for me. He didn't know who I was. It was a book sitting on a shelf that somebody recommended to me. And I know now that I've read it and talked about it, that there are a lot of other people who have read it, loved it, made a significant difference for them, and others never heard of it. And I think that's, if we think about it that way, is if we put it out there, we may never know, and it might impact someone who might impact someone else, who might impact somebody else. I think that's more of later in the week's topic, but getting away from what causes it. And that could be your book.
Okay. Wow. What a great Tuesday talk through.
Hopefully that was helpful.
It was. And I hope it was helpful for other people. I think one of the things that we were hoping is to make this real in terms of what it feels like, and to give a real example, because I think sometimes we self-sabotage without even knowing it. And I think this is a great example of where I was self-sabotaging and we didn't even think of it until we started talking about yesterday, and then to go into it more deeply today. I think it's useful just for me. It's probably useful for a lot of people. Yeah, I've put little roadblocks up that just come out of the blue. Like, I don't have gas in my car. I can't go to that meeting.
Yeah.
Or dressing the wrong way for something was one that I saw some people doing along the way. Or not engaging with people, a great one. Go to a networking event and you don't engage with anyone. You stand in the corner, like you said yesterday. And you're like, well, I went to networking and no one cares about what I'm doing. Yeah, because you didn't put it out there.
Right.
And we're all putting something out there every day. That's what business really is.
Correct. And we're all holding a lot back because we're not putting out there as much as it could. Again, because the audience that we, maybe it hasn't resonated yet with the audience that we put it out there to. And we just need to keep putting it out to other audiences. And there's a good likelihood that it will be as close to right as it can be for some.
Okay. Well, we have gotten deep into the weeds. I feel completely, what's the word? Raw. Raw is the word. That every now and then we have an episode where I feel raw at the end, and that's how I feel now. So, okay. Tom, why don't you wrap this puppy up and we can send it off into the ether?
Well, I don't think we gave the one thing, but I'm going to offer that. And I think to go back to what causes self-sabotage. And I know this is going to be weird and it's not really hard to figure out. But I think it's being worried about it either being right, not wrong, or wrong. And if we can start to set some of that aside and just say, this is what is real for me, and it has value for me, and I believe it has value for others. And that's what I'm going to go with. And then we'll see, because there's somebody out there who probably needs it. So that would be my thing about what causes it, is our concern over it being right or wrong. So with that, we will wrap this up. Bob, you did mention networking. And so I would be remiss if I did not mention that we have a networking event coming up on Thursday at 4 p.m. Our next Renegade Roundup, Thursday, January 28th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. You can, inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, there is an event page. You can click there to sign up, and you will get the Zoom link that we don't put out there because we don't need any Zoom bombs in the middle of our great networking event. And I think you'll find it unique, an opportunity for you to be real and share who you are and how you help others. So please join us on Thursday at 4 p.m. And if you are not a member of the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, please join.
What's wrong with you? I always want to say that when you say that.
Maybe they had not been exposed to it yet. This might be their first exposure.
Okay.
So it just hasn't been as absolutely close to right as it could be at the moment. So if you are not yet in our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, please join us. Just go to Facebook and search Ring of Renegades. It is a private group, so you will have to ask to join, but all we ask is that you tell us why you're a renegade. And then you can become a part of our growing community where we are helping leaders, small business owners, entrepreneurs figure out how to take their next step on their own unique pathway to success. Because what is real for each of us is a little different. So please join us inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. If not, we will be back here tomorrow morning talking more about self-sabotage on our next edition of today's Antidote. So we will be back 8 a.m. Eastern Time, Wednesday morning. Have a great rest of your day, and don't self-sabotage yourself. Put yourself out there. Have a great day, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow. Oh, I will say, if you're struggling with self-sabotage, Bob and I have put together this Renegade Success Network that really is about helping leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs figure out how to take their next step and move forward. And it's a membership group. So I'm going to share a little bit of information about that. We've seen a lot of people in the group make some great strides because they have stopped being stuck, stop self-sabotaging, and finding ways to take their next step forward. So please join us there. Have a great rest of the day. We will see you soon. Are you struggling to make your vision a reality? Are you stuck and don't know what to do next? Are fear and doubt holding you back? The Renegade Success Network will help you determine the next steps on your pathway. Here is some of what you will get. Create your pathway call to start you on a better path. Unlimited laser solution sessions to keep you from getting stuck. Nurture your network events to build your network with other successful leaders. Monthly Renegade challenges to prepare you for what lies ahead. The Renegade Success Vault, giving you access to videos, tools, and tips on specific topics anytime you need them. And the Renegade Success Network community, an exclusive Facebook group of like-minded renegades, all working towards achieving their goals. You have a choice. Do it yourself and fumble forward slowly and alone. Or join the Renegade Success Network and be part of a community built to help you find your own pathway. Join today at renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Act now and jumpstart your journey on your own pathway to success.